Okay, thank you.
Or 6-0, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
6-0.
I can always go on YouTube.
Technically, you can't.
What?
Technically, you can't. It's about to come up now.
Oh, you didn't record.
Oh, no, I did. I got it right. It just didn't.
Oh, it didn't work. Okay.
Tonight's gavel brought to you by Libby Glass. Has the right tone on a piece of paper. Oh, okay. IBM tells me it's 7 o'clock, so I'd like to call this meeting to order. Can I have roll call, please?
President Burns,
Here.
Trustee Brenner,
Here.
Christensen,
Here.
Trustee Garland,
Here.
Trustee Spencer,
Here.
Trustee Walter.
Here.
And an open meeting compliance check, please.
The agenda was posted Monday the 13th at BMO in person, as far as I know, and the Village Hall and Village Hall website.
Okay, thank you. First order of business, I'd like to move to approve the minutes from the March 24th, 2020 board meeting. Can I get a second, please?
Second.
Second by trustee Brenner. Any questions?
Oops.
Madam Clerk, if you could please call for the vote.
Brenner,
Yes.
Christensen,
Yes.
Garland,
Yes.
Spencer,
Yes.
Walter,
Yes.
President Burns.
Yes. I'd like to move to approve the presentation of allowances and disallowances for March 2020. Can I get a second? Can I get a
Second.
second? Second by trustee Brenner. On the question, Madam Clerk, please call for the vote.
Brenner,
Yes.
Christensen,
Yes.
Garland,
Yes.
Spencer,
Yes.
Walter,
Yes.
President Burns.
Yes. For presentations, petitions, and communication, village engineer report. Is there any questions for Mark? Anything come up since last Wednesday?
I guess the only thing I can add is I believe we're still going back and forth with We Energies on this easement to get service into the new well house, which is a little odd because they already have power poles in this easement area. So I believe that's still ongoing.
Okay, thank you. Community library report, trustee Walter.
Yeah, at the March meeting, we discussed about paying the employees for the time off. And at that time, they were still, the staff was still working because they had gotten a new software and some new equipment, and so they did have stuff to do, but then she had to close the library down completely once, you know, what the governor said, everything had to close. So, and we also discussed emergency closure policy. We've been following the Kenosha Library's policy, and we're gonna adapt it to the community library, so there'll be a few changes made. Otherwise, that's all I have. And the next meeting will be April 27th. I don't know what's gonna happen, but we may do it like this. So that's all I have.
Okay, thank you.
I have a
Well-
question.
Sure.
Trustee Christensen, question?
Yes. So is the staff getting paid during this time?
As far as I know, because that was March, oh gosh, we didn't even have it active. Let me see, that was March 26th that we had the meeting instead of the 30th. And they were supposed to be getting paid. And then
Okay.
we're gonna revisit that at the next meeting. to
Okay.
see.
All right.
Yeah, so yes,
Thank
they
you.
were supposed, as far as I know, they were getting paid.
All right, great. Thank you.
Well, follow-up question, was there actually a motion to pay him?
Mhm.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
And
I
that
will-
was approved? And that
Oh,
was
yes,
approved?
yes.
Oh, okay, okay.
It was approved, and then it'll be, yeah, it'll be revisited on the April 27th meeting.
Sure,
So-
it's conditional upon when the library can reopen, obviously.
Open, right.
Okay. Your question's been answered, I presume, trustee
It has,
Christensen?
yes.
Okay,
Thank you.
sure. Building and zoning,
President Burns, my report is that we continue to perform inspections, issue permits, work with the public. Even though there's social distancing and using proper PPE equipment, inspections still are occurring, and the public is content with the procedures that we're following.
and stormwater report?
Stormwater, we have just started our spring season. We've done some street sweeping, and we've done some televising of some storm sewer infrastructure and some catch basin cleaning. That'll ramp up as the season goes on here, but we're just getting started in the 2020 stormwater season.
Okay, thank you. Is Supervisor Poole?
Yep,
in the
I'll
waiting
let
room?
him in. Bear with me here to let Supervisor Poole in. Please welcome him as he comes in. Supervisor Poole, are you there? Let me give him a phone call,
There he
President
is.
Burns.
There he
Okay.
is. Good evening, John.
Hi, John.
Is John's audio on?
It is on.
Okay. Good evening, John.
Bear with me.
He's
He just
muted.
turned it off.
Right now.
There we
He's
go.
live now.
Supervisor Poole, good evening.
Good evening.
Hi, John.
You're up.
Excuse me?
You're up. You have the floor.
No, thank you. The county board did meet last Wednesday in person with social distancing and face masks to do business. The executive committee met before the board meeting and voted down a request by the county executive to extend his emergency declaration for 90 days. His request was turned down by the executive committee, of which I am not a member of, but I did support their negative vote in rejecting the next paragraph. The board did approve refunding bonds to buy back bonds with higher interest rates and reissue them at lower rates to save the county hundreds of thousands of dollars. The board also approved giving back interest and penalties for a resident who claimed the post office lost his payment while he was in Paris, France. The lesson to be learned from this case is to use registered mail, as the board may not be so kind next time. And as this is my last report, I wish to say that I've enjoyed working with the board and the administration. I think Paddock Lake is on the cusp of significant growth, and I'm proud to have assisted with some of that. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you, John.
Supervisor Poole, I thank you for your many years of devoted service representing the residents of Paddock Lake and Salem Lakes. I've appreciated everything you've done for us, and I'm sorry to see you go. I honestly am. Is there any other comments to John? Any questions to John?
I gave all
Yes.
my comments today. By phone. We'll miss you, John.
Thank you, Barb.
Thanks, John, for your work.
Thank you, Gloria.
Thank you, John.
See you
Okay.
later, John.
Thank you, Jen. Thanks for helping out with the fireworks as well. I appreciate that. We
No
appreciate that.
problem. Anytime you want it. Let me know.
Okay, thank you. All right, committee reports on finance and administration. I'm gonna quickly go over 2 months worth of meetings. I'll start with the March meeting. We discussed the trustee position. 2 of the candidates were in the audience. So we took advantage of that, and if any questions were asked of the board, excuse me, they were asked at that time. There'll be a motion tonight on that. We also have, we need authorization of the auditor's agreement. There'll be a motion for that this evening. The state is still, WSDOT is still requesting that we sign the resolution to support the speed limit study for 83, even though they've concluded on what the speed limit's going to be, but they still ask for our backing on it. And then so there'll be a motion on the resolution. And then we have the 2 property attachments, Duck Pond and the Filiatro property on Highway 50. This is to formalize it and put it into our ordinances. Pertaining to the April meeting, we'll have a motion for bills over 1,000. The terms of the water main special assessment changes to the interest rate and the term. The hiring of a public works employee. And we talked about the revised utility easement to which I don't see that on here tonight. Oh, I'm sorry, it is on here, number 10. So there'll be motions on everything that I just discussed. Is there any question on what we've discussed between March and the April finance and administration concerns? No? Okay. Okay, I'll move right into the motions then. Like to move to approve the bills over 1,000. Can I get a second?
Second.
I'm sorry, who's, Gloria, was that you?
Me- Yes, yes.
Any questions on the bills over 1,000?
No,
Madam Clerk, please call for the vote.
Brenner,
yes,
Richardson,
Yes.
Garland,
Yes.
Bob Spencer,
Yes.
Walter,
Yes.
and President Burns.
Yes. Okay, Mr. Fish is here in case any of the trustees want to ask him a question. There appeared to be some questions for him at the committee of the whole in March. So here's your opportunity to ask him. Any questions for Mr. Fish?
I don't.
I'm sorry?
I said, no, I don't.
Okay. Mr. Fish, if you wouldn't mind, just if you wouldn't recap some of your work history for the benefit of the board.
Sure, I'll try and keep it brief. I was born and raised in Northern Illinois, and I went to the Coast Guard Academy in 1968. I served in the Coast Guard from 68 until 84 when I retired. A variety of jobs. I was engineer on 3 icebreakers, chief engineer on medium endurance cutter out of Oregon. I was a base commanding officer and industrial manager in Woods Hole, Massachusetts. And I finished my career there in Boston as the ocean engineer in supporting of automating lighthouses and aids to navigation in the district. When I retired in 84, shortly after that, I started working for municipalities. I worked for the town of Falmouth for a couple of years, and I got an opportunity to move back to the Midwest, and I was industrial manager, or not industrial manager, public works director in Hazel Crest. I worked for a series of towns, Hazel Crest, Marengo, and Streeter in Illinois as a public works director and a city manager. And then I semi-retired from the municipal employment in Illinois and went to work for engineering firm, Clark Dietz out of Kenosha. And I worked there for about 5 years. And then I pretty much retired from there. And I did work for a little while for a small construction company out of Grays Lake, Illinois, Manival Construction. And then I really pretty much went into full retirement by about 2010. I did move here in 2001, so I've lived in Paddock Lake since 2001. My wife and I have both, at one time or another, been a trustee, and I've also been a member of the Plan Commission in Paddock Lake. I think I pretty much performed just about every function within municipal government that I can think of, other than being a village president. And I also, like I said, I've been on the Plan Commission here for several years now, and I enjoy doing that as well. And I think it came to my attention with the passing of Gary Kaditz that there was a vacancy, and I truly respected Gary, and I thought it would be an honor to his memory if I could fill his seat for the remainder of his term and maybe help out during the next year or so. And I understand as well that there's a lot of things going on, but then we have a even bigger thing in the country going on right now. So I think it would be a good idea to have someone with experience right now, given what all we may have to deal with in the next 12 months or more.
Mr. Fish, thank you for that summary. Is there any questions from the board to Mr. Fish?
I guess I would like to ask, Dick, do you have plans on running next year, or are you just trying to fill in this spot for this year? So what are your plans for the future? Because I know you haven't run the last couple elections.
Yeah, I'm not real sure right now. In addition to my other things that I've got going on, I am going to be having a shoulder replacement surgery in a month or so. And so we won't be, as I think several of you know, I have a motorhome and we've been doing some traveling, but I won't be able to do that for at least a year. Beyond that, depending on what's going on in the village, if I felt that I was still needed, I think that I would certainly consider running for re-election.
Any other questions? Okay, then at this time, I'd like to move to appoint Richard Fish to the village board to fulfill the vacancy left by the passing of trustee Gary Kaditz. Can I get a second, please?
Second.
Second by trustee Brenner. On the question, the only thing I want to make note is the only thing that's transpired since our committee of the whole in March was just a email correspondence between myself and the attorney Davidson. I just want to point out that a legal matter was identified and it was confirmed through the attorney. In the 15 years I've been on the village board, I don't recall ever a time where the village board has defied a legal opinion. I think they've always saw Jeff's opinion for what it's worth. And, but Mr. Papanda, I know you've been around here a lot longer than I have. Do you ever recall that happening?
President Burns, just a point, I'll be here 30 years this fall, and I have not known the board to ever go against a directive and or suggestion or comment from the legal counsel.
Okay, all right,
Terry,
thank you. Trustee
Christensen here.
Christensen, yes, I'm sorry, yes.
Since you did bring that up, now, I guess it probably is a question more for Jeff, but it's my understanding that not only, I know Scott is on the board of the Paddock Lake Association, correct?
Yeah, I'm a board member of the PHC.
Okay. Trustee Spencer is just part of that group, but not on the board, correct?
That is correct. He's just a
member.
A member.
Mr. Fish is also a member?
Mr. Fish?
As of March 31st of this year, when last year's expired, yes, I don't know about.
No, we have not.
currently.
I have in the past been a member primarily for the benefit of getting access to a dock. We sold our boat 2 years ago, and we don't see any great value to us to being members of it in that case. So we probably will. We do not intend to rejoin. I've never been to a PHLA meeting or anything like that. Never been an officer. Never been to a meeting of it.
Okay, and Brenna is not an officer, correct?
Oh, Benna, yeah, I
Oh,
am.
Benna, I'm sorry.
No worries.
You are an
Yeah,
officer.
I am.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah, and those are very good, that's a very good point to bring up, Trustee Christensen. The imperative issue here that I made mention of is active member. Anytime, just like this board is all active members, it would still apply that a potential for a quorum could exist if all 4 members of the PHLA were at the same function, event, or meeting. So
Well,
that's
currently,
that's the imperative.
currently,
concern.
right now on our board, though, don't we have, because isn't, Brenna, are you part of that association?
Yes, I am.
Okay, so currently, right now on our board, we have 3 people sitting.
That is correct, which is not a
Okay.
quorum.
Okay,
It would be a quorum if 4 are at a PHLA meeting. Then all the posting, all the necessary posting, just like we do with a village meeting, would be employed upon the staff to do that. And that's pretty much what was outlined in Jeff's response and my concern.
well, my concern would be, though, if both of these 2 individuals, if they were running currently right now, votes were casted for these 2 individuals, and Benna, did I
Yeah.
get that right? Okay.
Yep.
Benna were to be elected, we are in that position then with 4 people. What happens in that instance?
If it was through the election process, then the voting public has chosen that, just as you have the ability to choose it now. So that's the big difference. So you have a directive, you know what the concerns are. The general voting public, whether it was mentioned or not in the campaigning process, would be the only way they find out. And then, of course, it's up to the public whether they would want to have the village in that position. I guess is the best way to put it.
So I'm just want to play a hypothetical scenario. Next spring rolls around and I'm up for reelection. Let's say Ben runs for election. And hypothetical, another member of the PHLA runs, and two of us get voted on. And so there's, again, like Trustee Christensen said, there's 4 members. Is there going to be any kind of I can't think of the word I'm trying to say. Is there going to be any kind of anything against that at that point, an ordinance of any kind?
Legal type issue, I would.
Well, to answer the question, there would be the same legal issue that you're entertaining tonight. The big difference is it's the 6 of us making the decision, knowing that there's a legal issue, versus the general public making the determination, knowing or not knowing there's a legal issue. It depends, like I say, if it's brought up through the campaigning process. I can't control the public. You can't control what we do tonight. That's the big difference.
Could I
It's a
comment on one thing, Terry?
hypothetical, and it's a hypothetical that does have the possibility of happening, yes.
Mr. President, could I comment on one thing about that?
Mr. Fish.
The one thing that does come to my mind, like I said, I've got a fair amount of municipal experience, is that if there were 4 members from the board that happened to be attending a PHLA meeting, the Open Meetings Act law would require that meeting be publicly posted and agendas posted prior to the meeting taking place. So there would be extra legal hoops for PHLA to endure.
That
Well,
is
I think it would be the
That-
village.
Pardon me. That is correct. And that was the opinion of the village attorney as well, Mr. Fish. Trustee Christensen.
Okay, if I can comment on there, I think that was the whole issue with Jeff's email and Jeff's correspondence to you, was that it would, the only problem there would be is it would have to be posted. It would cause more work for village staff to have to post every one of those meetings. Because let's face it, in the community that we serve, every single person elected to the board could be part of that association or any of the other associations in the village. I mean, with a village this size, if you're going to have people run and become members of this board and they're lake people, theoretically, you could have every single board member being part of both. So if it's a matter of having to post, I don't think that, to me, is a valid enough reason to dismiss somebody.
And
Well-
if I can add, I'm sorry, just about, if you look at our PHLA boundary map, about half of Paddock Lake is eligible to be PHLA members / potential trustees in the future running for a trustee's position.
And again, I want to emphasize, and I think this is being failed to be recognized, is that you have the correspondence between Attorney Davidson and myself.
Mhm.
In that correspondence, he brings up the issue of a quorum. Again, you're bringing up hypothetical situations, which could in the future very well come true. But what I want you to understand is there's a difference between voting to get on the board through the general election process and a appointment to the village board. What I would assume, and I would think it would otherwise be careless not to consider, is that knowing full well that this legality is present with Benna coming on the board, I think certainly needs to be concerned by the village board. Again, it's a legal opinion. And it's whether you want to take that legal concern into consideration or not. Trustee Christensen.
I fully understand what you're saying because I did read Jeff's email, and Jeff's email did say, if we did to me, it just sounds like you're trying to say that we're doing something, or if anyone were to vote against appointing Mr. Fish, that we're going against legal counsel. And I don't think that's a fair assessment here. Legal counsel did say, if we did that, it would be some work that needs to be done as far as posting these meetings. So I just want to make that perfectly clear that I would not go against legal counsel if I knew it was something that should not be done. But you cannot deny somebody a seat on the board simply because they sit on that other committee.
Well, keep in mind, and I want to back up a minute here. Keep in mind, we got 3 letters of interest for the position.
Correct.
Okay. Benna has an outstanding resume. Mr. Fish has an outstanding resume.
I would agree.
And Ms. Brickner had, well, she had a letter written like an attorney. Ms. Brickner, of course, was dismissed by, it was dismissed by me. It was confirmed that the board didn't have any backing based on our committee of the whole. And of course, it came down to a split between both the 2 candidates tonight, which are both very valuable people. I don't want to dismiss that in any way. After the meeting, it dawned on me what would happen if we had 4 members of a private organization, which would be a quorum of the board. And I don't need to explain to anybody that the board is in charge of public money. What would happen if we had a private organization with a quorum of public money and the board knowingly moved forward with one individual over another, knowing full well of that? So the big issue is not so much as the situation where Benna is on the PHLA to create a quorum, but now what you have, and Trustee Christensen, I know you'll fully understand this, is now my concern was that you had a private organization in charge of public money only through a quorum. Then there's the addition of any time the PHLA gets together, yes, it's more burden upon staff in which to post it to avoid violating open meetings rules. So there's really 2 concerns. If it wasn't for, if both candidates and the PHLA thing wasn't an issue, it would be hard pressed. I would have to go, okay, of the 2, who has the most public experience that's going to benefit the operation of the village of Paddock Lake? And that's what I saw in Mr. Fish. It wasn't a one-sided approach. There was a lot to take into account. That's why my recommendation to the board was to appoint Mr. Fish, as the motion suggests.
I just like to have a little input on this thing too. I was on the board with Dick Fish when he was on the board. He's a very smart fellow. He followed development that already happened. We have development coming. He is a perfect guy. Bennett is great, but we just need somebody that can help Tim as well as to back him up. He's a busy man himself, and Dick's got the knowledge on the buildings and the development, and that's why I feel that Dick should be on the board. End of story.
Are we hiring Dick as an
Trustee,
employee?
Trustee
the
Trustee
trustee?
Spencer, Trustee Christensen had a question.
Well,
first.
I just want to just point out, since Mr. Fish is sitting here, I will not argue Mr. Fish's experience. I like Dick. Dick and I have always gotten along. I have no problems there. I do, however, I'm looking at the long haul. I know, Mr. Fish, you did explain why you haven't ran. And I know it was travel and things like that, because you and I have sat on the board before. That is my biggest concern, is I'm looking towards the future. I'd like to see people on this board and showing interest in the board for the future. If people aren't put in the position or not able to get onto the board, we're going to have the same people on this board time after time after time after time. And they're just not in it. And I'm not saying that you wouldn't be, Mr. Fish. I'm just saying there was a reason why you didn't run for a couple of years. You know, you said it yourself. You wanted to travel, you wanted to do things. My concern is the future. Terry, you brought up the future. Barb, you just brought up the future. I'm also looking towards the future.
Thank you.
Yeah, and of course, I would hope that everything this board makes decisions on is in regards to the future. I think it goes without saying that anything we decide is going to have some impact on the future operation of the village. So certainly in considering Mr. Fish, I did not intend on him to simply fill the position till next April. I would certainly encourage him to run, to file papers in December. That this comment would go if I had picked Benna as well. So again, you can look at it from a business standpoint. You know, you have two very educated candidates. It really comes down to, of the education they have, which is the best match for village operations, and that would be cited to Mr. Fish. I'm not concerned about that Mr. Fish has been on the board before and changing faces for the sake of changing faces. I treat this village as a business. We have a business to run, and the more educated people that we have with public education is a better benefit to our residents and a better benefit to this board and a better benefit to the operation of the village. That's the way I have to look at it. That's the way I do look at it. Again, I'm not saying that Benna is not a qualified candidate in any means. If Mr. Fish was not involved in the mix, I would say by default, I would suggest Benna be on the board. However, we would have to get around this legality, and something short of reposting the position, which I am in no favor of doing. Our ordinances say we have to have 7 members on this board. We will have 7 members on this board. Trustee Christensen, I know you were on the board with our last president when that individual didn't get who she wanted, and therefore this board went with 6 members for at least a year, as I recall. And of course, you would agree with me that that is not the way the ordinances are written. So
I do agree.
yeah. So again, we are going to have a 7-member board. Okay. I will guarantee that, whether it's tonight or whether it's addressed next month, and it's addressed next month. Trustee Spencer.
Not to call you
Trustee
out,
Spencer.
not to call you. I believe the last trustee that left, in fact, if we go back to the board meeting, I had applied for that open spot. I had heard that you had chosen someone else. That person did not pan out, and you chose to leave the board at 6. And in fact, word at this time, we should just let the election take care of it. So my memory might not be right, but I'm sure that's the way it went.
Your memory is partially correct.
Well, you're
This
saying that we had to be
individual,
at 7.
I'm sorry?
You said currently that that the ordinance said you got to be at 7, and you were going to be at 7. And
That is
you did not
that is
doing your
correct.
thing.
That is correct, and that is correct. And as I would hopefully you would recall, if you were on the board when that member left, it was the board's decision to keep that spot vacant because there was only 2 months before you could pull papers for the spring election. That's why it was left vacant. The board approved it to be vacant. It was not a unilateral decision on my part. That's what actually happened. Are there any other questions?
I just want to say one more thing.
Trustee Garland.
I think everybody knows where my vote would go towards. No disrespect to Mr. Fish. Just like the rest of the trustees have worked with you in the past, I've worked with Benna for at least 4 or 5 years through the PGLA. I know everything that all the volunteering that she does for the betterment of the community, doesn't want anything in return, not looking for any personal gain. She's doing it for the betterment of the community. That's where my vote would have to go towards when it comes down to it, just based off of my knowledge of what the type of person that Benna is, who she is, and what she represents. So I just wanted to throw that out there.
Okay, and I think what you're clarifying is that of the 2 candidates, your preference is for Ms. Alberg, and you feel that her performance based on what you've seen is equitable and a benefit to the village. That's perfectly understandable. Okay, are there any other questions? We do have a motion on the floor. We do have a second. If there's no other questions, I will call for the vote. Is there any other questions? Madam Clerk, please call for the vote.
Renner,
Yes.
Christensen,
No.
Garland,
No.
Spencer,
No,
Walter,
Yes.
Burns,
Yes. Okay, that's a 3-3 vote.
God.
It
Ridiculous.
does not pass. It does not pass. We'll address it next month. Moving on. On the auditor's agreement, Trustee Brenner, you have that motion?
I certainly do. At this time, I'd like to authorize village president and administrator to sign the 2019 auditors agreement. Can I get a second?
second.
Second by Bob Spencer.
Do we have Trustee Spencer, that was a second?
Yes. On the
Okay.
others agreement?
Second by Trustee Spencer. Any questions? No questions, Madam Clerk, please call for the vote.
Renner,
Yes.
Christensen,
Yes.
Garland,
Yes.
Spencer,
Yes.
Walter,
Yes.
President Burns.
Yes.
Excuse me, President Burns?
Administrator Propanda.
Can we thank Benna Alberg and Dick Fish for their time and we'll release them from the Zoom meeting.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you both for showing tonight.
Sure.
You're more than welcome to sit back and listen to the rest of the meeting. You just won't have audio.
Thanks for
Thank
having
you.
us.
Thank you to both of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
for
you.
being here.
Okay, I'd like to move to approve resolution R 20-03, a resolution recommending that Wistop perform a highway speed limit study on State Highway 83 South. Can I get a second?
Second,
Second by
Second.
trustee Walter. On the question. Madam Clerk, please call for the vote.
Brenner,
Yes.
Christensen,
Yes.
Garland,
Yes.
Walter. Walter
oh, sorry, yes.
and President Burns.
Yes. Okay, I'd like to move to waive the first reading of ordinance 20-03, an ordinance to repeal and recreate section 29.21 of the Code of Ordinances of the Village of Paddock Lake as it relates to the attachment of the Duck Pond LLC property. Can I get a second?
Second.
Second by trustee Garland. Madam Clerk, please call for the vote.
Brenner,
Yes.
Christensen,
Yes.
Garland,
Yes.
Spencer,
Yes.
Walter,
Yes,
President Burns.
Yes. I'd then like to move to approve ordinance 20-03 to repeal and recreate ordinance 29.21 as it pertains to the attachment of the Duck Pond LLC property. Can I get a second?
Second.
Second by trustee Brenner. On the question. Madam Clerk, please call for the vote.
Brenner,
Yes.
Christensen,
Yes.
Garland,
Yes.
Spencer,
Yes.
Walter,
yes.
and President Burns.
Yes. I'd like to move to waive the first reading of ordinance 20-04, an ordinance to repeal and recreate section 29.20 of the Code of Ordinances of the Village of Paddock Lake as it relates to the attachment of the Filiatro property. Can I get a second?
Second.
Second by trustee Brenner. Madam Clerk, please call for the vote.
Brenner,
Yes.
Christensen,
Yes.
Garland,
Yes.
Spencer,
Yes.
Walter,
Yes,
President Burns.
Yes. I'd then like to move to approve ordinance 20-04 to repeal and recreate ordinance 29.20 as it pertains to the attachment of the Filiatro property. Can I get a second?
Second.
Second by trustee Brenner. On the question, Madam Clerk, please call for the vote.
Brenner,
Yes.
Christensen,
Yes.
Garland,
Yes.
Spencer,
Yes.
Walter,
yes.
President Burns.
Yes. I'd like to move to approve and accept the Village of Paddock Lakes Planning Commission recommendation to approve a use permit for a single 8 foot by 4 inch by 9 foot by 3 inch LED video sign at Brass Ball Mobile located at 25406 75th Street. Can I get a second?
Second.
Second by trustee Garland. On the question. Madam Clerk, please call for the vote.
Brenner,
Yes.
Christensen,
Yes.
Carolyn,
Yes.
Spencer,
Yes.
Walter,
Yes.
President Burns.
No. Okay, I'd like to move to approve, to authorize the village administrator, consulting engineer, and village attorney to create a revised final engineer special assessment report using a 20-year repayment term at 2.875% interest rate. Can I get a second?
Second,
Second by trustee Brenner. On the question, Madam Clerk, please call for the vote.
Brenner,
yes.
Christensen,
Yes.
Carolyn,
Yes.
Spencer,
Yes.
Walter,
Yes.
President Burns.
Yes. Bear with me a second here. I apologize, my agenda disappeared in my piles of paperwork here. Okay, number 11, to hire Mr. Hersley. That is going to be withdrawn from the agenda. Mr. Van Hersley has accepted another position. So the Administrator Propanda will advertise for his position, or the position that was going to be offered to him. Any questions on that from the board?
No.
No.
Nope.
Okay, and then finally, I'd like to move to grant an underground 12-foot wide utility easement to Wisconsin Electric Power Company, doing business as We Energies on tax parcel 40-4-120-024-2090, the Paddock Lake Water Utility Site for construction of electric service. Can I get a second? Can I get a second? Second by trustee Walter. On the question, Mark had mentioned this earlier in the meeting. Madam Clerk, please call for the vote.
Brenner,
Yes.
Yes.
Carolyn,
Yes.
Spencer,
Yes.
Walter,
Yes.
and President Burns.
Yes. Okay, that concludes finance and administration, judiciary and license. Trustee Walter.
I just have the report from February, which is there were, parking was 0, traffic, pardon me? Traffic 23, village ordinance, adult 4, village ordinances, juvenile 6, Indigency hearings were 4, pre-trials none, trials none, water patrol none, golf cart none, for a total of 37 cases. I also have a motion for operators licenses. To approve operators licenses for Haley Cleland and Lisa Point, both for drifters, will expire June 30th, 2020, and both have completed the responsible servers class. Can I have a second?
Second.
Second by trustee Garland on the question. Madam Clerk, please call for the vote.
Brenner,
Yes.
Hutchinson,
Yes.
Garland,
Yes.
Censor,
Yes.
Walter,
Yes.
and President Burns.
Yes. And
And then-
just, I'm sorry, trustee Walter, just to mention, the reason there's not a March court report is because there was not a court
there
in
was no
March.
card. Correct.
Good reason
the
to
end of
not
my
have a
report.
report. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Police and fire. I made mention that we got our check from the DNR for the water patrol for last year. Regarding the reports from the sheriff and Salem Fire, on the February report, 28% of their activity was devoted to Highway 50 as far as officer initiated stops. 41% of those officer initiated stops initiated in resulted in citations. There was 1 arrest. In March, 20% of their time was devoted to Highway 50 and traffic stops. 12% of those resulted in citations, and there were 5 arrests. Numbers are down for March simply because starting the middle of the March, we all got introduced to the COVID-19 issue, and the Sheriff's Department has a different procedure for addressing moving violations due to that. So that's why the numbers are down slightly. For Salem Fire, in February, you had 10 EMS calls. There were no fire calls, and there were 2 potential hazmat calls. In March, you once again had 10 EMS calls, hopefully not the same people. And there was no fire calls. So those are those 2 reports. Are there any questions on that information? Okay, if not, health, welfare, and recycling, trustee Christensen, anything to report from last month's meeting or last week's meeting?
Nothing, Terry.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Building, grounds, and parks, trustee Brenner.
The only thing I have is we're gonna renew our landscaper from last year. So I have a motion to authorize the village president and administrator to sign the 2019 auditors agreement. Oh,
No.
no, that's the wrong one.
No.
Sorry. To approve the landscapers 2020 to 2021 contract with Fox Services in the amount of $14,000 per year. Can I get a second?
Second.
Second by trustee Spencer. On the question? Madam Clerk, please call for the vote.
Brenner,
Yes.
Christensen,
Yes.
Garland,
Abstain. I know one of the applicants that applied for it.
you okay? Spencer,
Yes.
Walter,
Yes.
and President Burns.
Yes.
That's the end of my report.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
And trustee Garland, thank you for noticing a conflict of interest and abstaining. That
Thank you.
was very valid of you. Thank you. Okay. Public Works, Trustee Spencer.
All right. Got just a few items real quick. We got one back from March and then the rest we talked about last week. First one was back from March, is pay request number 5. It's from Stop Construction. So first one is to authorize village staff to pay Stop Construction Corp for payment of request number 5 in the amount of $199,500 for work performed on water system improvement project. Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Second by Trustee Garland. On the question, Madam Clerk, please call for the vote.
Brenner,
Yes,
Christensen,
Yes.
Garland,
Yes.
Spencer,
Yes.
Walter,
Yes.
and President Burns.
Yes.
All right, and that one was from March. This was now one from April for pay request number 6 for same Stop Construction. So motion reads to authorize village staff to pay Stop Construction Corp for payment request number 6, the amount of $488,056.80 for work performed on the water system improvement project. Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Second by Trustee Garland on the question. Madam Clerk, please call for the vote.
Brenner,
yes,
Christensen,
Yes.
Garland,
Yes.
Spencer,
Yes.
Walter,
Yes.
and President Burns.
Yes.
All right, and this one, next motion is to authorize the village administrator to sign the change order proposed from Casper Truck Equipment to modify his new 2020 F-350 truck, cost not to exceed $109. Can I get a second?
Second.
Second by Trustee Walter. On the question, Madam Clerk, please call for the vote.
Brenner,
yes,
Christensen,
Yes.
Garland,
Yes.
Spencer,
Yes.
Walter,
Yes.
and President Burns.
Yes.
Beautiful. And my last motion tonight is a big money saver one. It's from the engineering changes that we made. Construction project change order number 2 for water system improvements. Can I get a second?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the motion. He kind of cut out.
Motion was to approve Stop Construction project change order number 2 for water system improvements. It's the value engineering motion.
second,
Can we get a second by Trustee Brenner? On the question? Madam Clerk, please call for the vote.
Brenner,
yes,
Christensen,
Yes.
Garland,
Yes.
Spencer,
Yes.
Walter,
Yes.
and President Burns.
Yes. And I'll point out humorously, even though we saved almost 37,000, Bob, you still spent 668,000. Okay, thank you. What's that?
You always got to talk about the sale price.
Money's money, right?
Yeah, that's all I have tonight, President Burns.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Tree Commission, Trustee Garland.
All right, the only thing, no motions, the only thing that we talked about last week was that 39 of 65 village trees have either been removed or pruned since the end of last year, and that the village staff is going to continue working on trees through the end of April. And then the other thing that was discussed was that Arbor Day is going to continue, I believe, on April 25th. However, correct me if I'm wrong, it's only going to be for staff and, not the general public like it normally is? If I understood correctly?
I believe, yes, that was the concept. Administrator Papani, you want to comment on that?
What was the question, President Burns?
Arbor Day, the way Arbor
Yeah,
Day is going to
it
be
doesn't,
handled
we
this year.
wouldn't have a host from the Wisconsin DNR. It looks like it will be canceled.
Yeah.
But there was still a planting of a tree, as I recall.
Yeah, with the board's permission, I'd like to maybe do that in the fall.
Yeah.
I have no
That'll
objection.
be fine.
Any, okay.
That'll be fine.
And I do have one more thing, a question, just a question. Ironically enough, this happened in front of Benna Alberg's house at 2463 274th Street. Back in November, a tree fell, landed over the street. It was on November 4th, and then the rest of the tree was taken down on November 5th. The tree was on village property, and the owners are wondering, because there's this big stump that is still there. Is the village going to be removing that stump at any point?
Yes, and the procedure is this, Trustee Spencer, or I'm sorry, Garland, is that we group many of them together. We do not own our own stump grinding equipment. So we group many of them together, rent a stump grinder, and do a mass amount of stumps. We're in the neighborhood of about 40 stumps right now. We should be planning to do that this summer. But yeah, absolutely. We'll remove the stump, grind it, put dirt back in the excavated area, and get grass to grow. So yes, that will be done, as well as the others throughout the village. Just be patient with us.
Okay. It was thrown at me, so I thought I'd ask. So, as far as trees are concerned, that's all I have.
Okay. Thank you, Trustee Garland. Our reports of village officials. Just a couple things. At the committee of the whole, I had mentioned the county website for the COVID-19 information. I just want to give you that again. It's kenoshacounty.org/COVID-19. It's a very informative site. It's got up-to-date numbers and up-to-date information. The requirements for testing seem to change every other day. So if you have any information, that's a very valuable site that the county's put together. The other thing I want to mention is today in Madison, the COVID relief bill was passed. And what that did is it eliminated the 1 week waiting period for unemployment. And what that inadvertently did was allow for that $600 addition to the unemployment check. A stipulation in that $600 is it was only for states that did not have the 1 week waiting period. So by eliminating that waiting period, it's opened up that $600 payment to the residents of Paddock Lake. Also, starting next week, my understanding is that if you're self-employed, you'll have to fill out a form, but you're also entitled to that $600 a week from the United States government. In addition to the $1,200 per individual check that you might see by the time the trees drop their leaves. Unless you have automatic deposit, then you'll probably see it a lot sooner. So if anybody's wondering about committee appointments, I've been postponing that because I want to see who our actual 7-member board consists of. So that's why we haven't done that. Typically that's done in April as well. So depending on how our conversation goes, hopefully we might even be able to do that next month. I'm thinking positive on that. that concludes my report. Clerk treasurer report.
I don't have anything other than I just wanted to say that the election went very well. It was kind of a scary time because I wasn't sure how it was going to pan out with my poll workers, but I had some great people step up, and I want to thank all the village residents that made an application to vote absentee. That made it so much better, and I guess we're just preparing for the next election and see what'll happen.
And Michelle, I want to thank you. I want to thank staff. I know it was every day was in turmoil because you had no idea what the state was going to hand down. It went back and forth. It was like a ping pong game. So I appreciate you and staff hanging in there and getting it done. And I think y'all did an outstanding job. So thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Michelle,
Administrators. I'm sorry,
can I
Trustee
just add
Walter.
one thing? Yeah, I read on, I think it was Facebook, somebody wrote in, they voted in Paddock Lake and they felt very safe the way it was all set up.
Good.
So that's
We tried to
good
make
for
it
you.
as we could. I know that it was out, we were questioning people at the door, and I know that Summers had a problem, but the state did say that we were supposed to ask the election workers those questions, and it was, I don't want to say they told us we had to ask, but it was a good idea to ask voters if they came in. And we didn't have anybody say that they had any symptoms, so it wasn't a big deal. And we had National Guard members, 2 of them that helped with the election, which was a great help.
Oh, that's good. That's all.
Okay. Administrators report.
President Burns and the board, I'd like to echo Michelle Ceramic's sentiments on how the election went. And more importantly, I really want to thank Michelle for putting that together. That was a lot of work on her end. She ran a well-oiled machine. It went very well, and kudos to you, Michelle, and all those who helped. And maybe if I could, yield my time over to Michelle to indicate all those who did help with this. And if you could, off the top of your head, Michelle, thank them live here on the YouTube channel.
Well, first I want to thank you, Tim, for making our sneeze guards for us.
That's true.
Yes, that too. That was awesome and a very big help. And Karen Harris and Sally Cernick, they were my 2 regular election workers that have worked. They came in their 2 to 9 shift, and they had some reservations, but they felt Karen said she felt safer there than she did at Century. So that was a good thing. And then I want to thank Marla a lot. She was there for me to help me, and her son came and helped, and my daughter came and helped, and my son's girlfriend came and helped. So, we kind of had to pull people we knew that weren't too afraid to come and help. But yeah, I think I covered everybody. So with our little bitty staff, we made our 206 voters that came in to vote in person. I think we made them feel safe and like they got their message that they got to vote. So, my daughter came and helped.
Tim, anything else?
I would like to thank our residents for honoring and putting up with the office being closed. They've adapted and communicated by email and by telephone and using our Dropbox. So we have a wonderful municipality and wonderful residents that make our job easier and make us want to come to work and serve our public. So we're essential workers. We're here every day, and we do appreciate our residents. So thank you. That's all I have, President Burns.
Okay, thank you. Did we get any?
President Burns, before you say anything more, on the motion for the village president and administrator to sign the 2019 auditors agreement, who seconded that motion?
It was
Trustee Spencer's indicating he did.
Yes,
it was Bob.
it was
Okay.
Trustee Spencer.
Thank you.
Okay,
Are those just going to be emailed to us so I can sign it?
I'll email it to you, Bob.
That way I don't have to come in the office.
Yeah, that's fine. I'll email it to you.
Okay, Administrator Papanda, did we get any emails for inputs and concerns?
Bear with me here, my computer has gone vacant. So I got, President Burns, I got a response from Darren Hillock from West of the Eye requesting a document. That's the only thing that we've had come in on the village website or to me or on my phone. So we have no request for additional information, President Burns.
Okay, thank you. Is there any old business of the board? Okay, any new business for discussion next month? I know Trustee Garland has requested a traffic issue. So Trustee Garland will be presenting that next month.
If I could make one quick update from that conversation last week, I misquoted the child, the special needs child. I mistakenly mentioned that she is autistic. She's actually got Down syndrome. So I just wanted to
Oh, okay,
on that.
okay. Is there anything else for next month that anybody wants to put on the agenda? Okay. Okay, I would like to move to adjourn. If I could get a second.
Second,
Second by Trustee Brenner. All those in favor go like this. And I don't see anybody opposing that, so we are done. Good evening to all of you. Have a good night and thank you.
Bye, guys.
Thank you.
Bye.
I'm repeat.